This brings us to the second half of our program, and a piece that relates to kind of the cause that made me really decide to do this recital. Mom and I had been kind of talking about doing kind of a celebration before I go, but when the current administration announced that they were severing 7 organizations from the National Suicide Hotline, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So the National Suicide Hotline gets 1,500 calls a day at a minimum. People of all ages, but especially children. There's no logical reason for anyone to kill themselves. There's no good reason for it. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain that is caused by either your body not producing the right chemicals or the language we use with ourselves and the language we hear from other people causing our brain to produce incorrect chemicals. There's no good reason for it. And so every single kid that kills himself is a preventable and pointless death. Queer kids are more likely to consider this for a million reasons. And the 7 organizations that were severed from the National Hotline all had to do with that. They all had to do with people who are qualified experts on what LGBTQ youth go through. There are numerous examples of times that queer kids have called and spoken to somebody who is not knowledgeable in this area and then took their own lives based on what they heard. Yes, everyone is qualified legally to speak to everyone who calls a hotline, but if you're not an expert in something, we need those people. So the Trevor Project is one of these 7 organizations. It is one of the longest kind of running of its purpose, and it is devoted solely to keeping queer kids alive. That's what they do. They man call centers, they put out surveys to figure out what the current landscape is. This past year, their survey revealed, they just sent this out a couple weeks ago, that just based on where you live, queer kids who live in communities that are overall accepting are more than 50% less likely to even consider taking their own life. The statistic we've known for a few years is that kids who are not just loved but actively supported by their parents are more than 40% less likely to ever try to kill themselves. This is an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people, but this was a very deliberate move by the current administration to cause kids to die, which is inexcusable by any metric. I hope that's something everyone can agree on, that queer kids taking their own lives is not acceptable. So I decided that this recital was going to be a benefit for the Trevor Project, which now has to do more outreach to make sure people know their 10-digit phone number instead of just the 3-digit National Suicide Hotline. Their website is excellent. It is easy for kids to use and talk to somebody over text or on the phone. They are available around the clock, around the year, to help people. The American hymn tune, Poor Wayfaring Stranger, came to mind. It is a very old American hymn. It is before the Civil War. We can't tell exactly where it started. But to me, it felt exactly like this. These are kids who don't know that it's supposed to be better, that don't know that they fit on this earth, that don't know that there is a future for them. And I wish I could just squeeze them all and tell them that there is no good reason for them to feel the way they do, and that there is help from qualified people who care. So this set of variations is just depicting what queer kids go through. So starting with the main theme, after that is Runaway. Imagine what it must be like for a kid to feel they can't be in their own home. The second one is First. It's about how when it takes you 16 or 30 or 45 years to figure out you're gay and you finally know who you're attracted to, how do you fall in love for the first time? People who are not gay spend their whole childhoods figuring out who they're attracted to, who they get along with, all these things, and when you're gay, you don't have that. So you stumble through some pretty awkward relationships, and then that first big love for you happens a lot later. It doesn't end well. It often doesn't in this, and so you'll hear at the end of the movement, the pianist and I pull apart, and the bassoonists kind of left on their own. Conflict is the third one. You got what that's about, right? The fourth one is Graphic, and it uses one of 2 extended bassoon techniques I'm using called timbre trill. Timbre trill is when you use multiple fingerings for the same note, but because you're changing fingerings, you hear a bubbly sound. So I think you can guess what I am trying to vividly depict during a variation about swimming, during a piece about kids trying to take their own life. For my own sake, to get through it, I tell myself that the end of the movement is them making it to shore. I wish every kid did. The variation that follows right after is called discovery, and it's what happens when life goes on, when you make it, when you succeed in surviving, and there's just so much beauty in life to explore after this. The sixth one is called outbursts. Classical musicians are going to go, what did he just do when you hear it? I took something from one of our most fabulous gay composers from all of history, and I use multiphonics, which is when you use a fingering on the bassoon that makes 4 or 5 different notes at the same time. Not like violins can play 2 notes and they sound really good together. Bassoon, it kind of just sounds like you're screaming. And so I use that on purpose to kind of like screaming into the void, both reconciling with what happens to queer kids across the country, and God forbid one of them be good at sports and the world crumbles. So this is kind of me screaming. The last one is love above all else, which is just we can reduce the rate of suicide by more than 40% by making sure every kid knows that they're loved and that there's room for them on this earth. This piece is going to make many of you uncomfortable. You're welcome. It makes me uncomfortable to play it. It made me uncomfortable to write it. All music has context. It was written by someone, for someone, in a place, during a period of time, and you can't separate that. I taught my middle schoolers this in Union for 5 years, that every piece has a politics it was in. It has a religion that people were around. It has all of this. And it's not something to shy away. Music isn't just a source of comfort. It should make you think. So as you hear, especially those extended techniques, I want you to just sit with it, and then treasure the people in your life a little extra for me after this, and hold them a little tighter. So here are my variations on Poor Wayfaring Stranger, called Wayfaring Children.